Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the Best Darn Diddly Review Show. This is a weekly podcast for anyone who loves The Simpsons, or ever has loved The Simpsons, hosted by two dudes that grew up on The Simpsons. My name is Miles, better known as Mr. Most Days Off, and today we've got to put the blame for this nonsense on somebody, and it's definitely not going to be one of us, so we're going to figure that out as we go along. But before we get to who we're blaming it on, let's get to who we're doing this show with. Your co-host with the most, Richie the Whiz Kid. How you doing today, Rich?
I need answers, Miles. I need answers, particularly from you. So we'll start the show off with that.
Wait, I thought we were blaming it on others. I didn't know that I was going to be in the hot seat during this.
I need clarification for this episode. I need to know if you're okay with this episode because of things that have happened in the past that I tried to bring up a second time a few weeks ago, and you tried to defend.
Oh, I think I already know where you're going with this, and I think you still do not understand fundamentally why I have a problem with an entire family going to fucking Canada because he has a crush on a girl, sir. If that's what we're going with.
But it's okay for them to go to Brazil?
Yes, because it's a completely different situation. They are in financial trouble here. There is an actual adult reason to go to Brazil in this episode versus, oh, Bart's got a crush, let's go to Canada. That is some dumb shit, sir.
They go to Brazil because they want to find a little boy that they've never met before.
They go to Brazil because they are in a financial dispute with their phone company. It has nothing to do with the little boy. The little boy was the catalyst to get to the debt. The debt is the reason they go to Brazil. And if fighting debt isn't the most American thing you can do, then I don't know what is. So yes, going to Brazil, I have absolutely no problem with. In fact, you're kind of cutting ahead of my point a little, but I was going to say
you're the one that jumped the gun.
You teased too strongly, sir. You finished me off early because that's not teasing anymore. Because I was literally going to say on the tail end of this episode, this is one of my, I think, favorite examples of The Simpsons traveling. Like, whereas the Canada episode would be my least favorite example, possibly. I think this one makes a lot, like, this one is very much in the spirit of, like, when they go to, like, New York, or when they go to, like, Japan. I like this episode a lot, especially when we categorize it amongst other traveling episodes. But regardless, I didn't mean to jump in so hard, but I knew where you were going with that one, so I wanted to cut it off before you got started.
I call, just like this podcast, that I think that your explanation's full of shit.
I think you don't understand that, like, 10-year-olds don't dictate family decisions. I don't know, maybe your family,
but 8-year-olds do.
It's not Lisa's thing, though. It's the thing. She's the reason they got in debt, but it's Lisa Nagel. Or is it Lisa? Lisa Nagel? Yeah, we've met you many times. Lindsay Nagel. We've met you many times, Miss Nagel.
We're going to take that ponytail.
But yeah, I don't think you actually ever threw it back to me. My bad.
You kind of, we're just jumping all around on this one. So I don't know if you deserve a throwback on this one, but if I were to throw it back to you, I would call you the man, the myth, the comquack. He's Miles.
I would call you the person that doesn't understand finances, sir. 10-year-old crush going to Canada. My God. Yeah, no,
you didn't really like her, anyways.
That's even more to my point. And that's exactly why that's such a stupid concept, is because every parent, even if a parent as stupid as Homer, would be like, you're 10, you've just got a crush, we'll be fine if we don't take you to Canada.
But they'd be okay going further to Brazil.
Yes, because they are in debt, sir. That is a completely different concept. We're going to travel
because we're in debt.
Yes,
that makes no sense.
They're fighting the debt. They go to Brazil for twofold. One, to get their phone rights back, because they have had them taken from them disingenuously. And then, two, once there, of course, because Lisa did start a humanitarian project, which is way more important than a crush, they follow through on helping the poor little orphan boy being safe. I don't think that's unreasonable, Richie.
To look for one person in 150 million. Okay.
Hey, man, activism, you have to start somewhere. You got to do what you can, get the ball rolling. Every little bit helps.
You want to find your one person out of 150 million. It kind of sounds like love a little bit.
If every single person listening to this podcast right now picks one Brazilian and just helps them, we will help, I don't know the population of Brazil, but probably somewhere between 1% and 3% of that population.
Only if they give us the $50,000 back at the end, because they get a better life than we have.
Yeah, that's true. And they better not be in that Monopoly money they use either. All right. Well, we obviously have opinions on this episode that we need to get into. We are talking about Blame It on Lisa today, which originally aired on March 31st in the year 2002. This one does not have a chalk gag. We don't have time for that because we got to get straight into the episode. Of course, we still get a couch gag because we always do. This one's actually pretty fun. It is the Simpsons are all marionettes, and they kind of pan up to see that the person controlling the puppets is actually Matt Groening himself, which is pretty cool.
You know, it might be bad that, like, when I was reading the reference to Matt in this one, like, when you watch it, you know it's Matt. When you're reading the notes for it and it says MG, it makes me think of Machine Gun Kelly.
Oh, God. Like, wait, really?
What? I don't know why.
When did that happen to you?
I think I'm just used to seeing, like, when you're scrolling through Facebook, you'll see stuff pop out with MGK, and it's like, it's just on the brain, even though I don't care. Like, if I were to see him on TV or in person, I wouldn't know who he is.
Dude, Machine Gun Kelly got whipped so badly by Eminem, he had to switch music genres. Like, he is, like, into, like, pink jeans and pop music now, which is fine. But that's how, like, much Eminem destroyed him in that rap battle last year. He lost his identity, man. It's wild. But anyways,
it's not the first time he's destroyed somebody either.
Truth. Shout out to Ducky, who is on the Twitch stream with us. Glad to see you again, buddy.
He's also a comquack.
Accurate. We are diving right into this episode, which starts with an Itchy and Scratchy show. And I teased Richie last night. Apparently we just like to do that to each other. We should make merch of that. That sounds like a funny bit, but regardless, I was watching the commentary last night, and I told Richie that the first piece of commentary he's gonna find really interesting, and that's true. But I'm not gonna talk about that one right now. I'm gonna wait till the end because that's what I like to do on this show. And I can't talk about how much I love this as a travel episode anymore since somebody stepped on that bit. This episode did feature commentary from Al Jean, Steve Moore, Matt Selman, Tim Long, John Frank, Don Payne, Joel Cohen, Matt Warburton, David Silverman, and Mike Anderson. And you may recall from the past when I talk about a lot of names on the commentary track, it usually results in not a lot of information being on the commentary track because these guys are too busy joking around with each other. And arguably, that is largely true for this episode, but there are a couple of really good gems that I did get from the commentary that I'm excited to talk about. First off, right off the bat, in this golf sequence for Itchy and Scratchy, when they wrote this, they had it in mind that they wanted to get Tiger Woods to be on the show. And they, in fact, reached out to Tiger Woods and offered him a guest spot, and he declined it. He essentially had no interest in taking time out of his golf game and a fair game to have time to be animated on The Simpsons.
He was teaching his then wife how to follow through.
Yeah, something like that. Exactly.
I bet if you ask him now, looking back, he probably would have said yes.
Well, he could definitely use the public, like, good viewer, like, I don't know, what is that called? Like, being in good graces with, like, people again or whatever. He's
basically already back. Oh, no, he's back in good graces here.
Oh, is he?
He's been back a little bit playing when other people wouldn't be able to play.
But isn't he, like, really bad at golf now? Or is it just that he used to be so good at golf that he sucks by comparison of, like,
that's exactly what it is. Yeah. It's the latter there, but like he's back in the limelight a little bit. I think he's got a golf game coming. He's going to be on the cover of some new golf game.
Isn't he going to be on the cover of like the EA golf game, which used to be called Tiger Woods?
I believe so.
I think that's actually still considered a downgrade, but I'm sure he's getting boatloads of money for it.
Either way, it seems like he's got a much more happy personality these days, or approachable, which is why his golf game isn't as good because he's not that.
Yeah, you need to focus on that just doing what you do, man. Like you don't need to be gracing us peasants with your smile.
But this isn't PGA.
Don't break records.
This is best darn diddly here.
This is a completely out of nowhere statistic that I read today and may or may not be true, but I do think it's kind of funny. Apparently, according to this random study I read, 1 in 8 men with no tennis experience think that they could take a point off of Serena Williams in a tennis match. And
holy crap.
I find that both to be insanely believable because of how insanely inflated some people's egos are, but also just really, really hilarious because I think there's a higher statistical chance that Serena Williams would kill 1 in 8 men with a tennis ball, like with her tennis shot, than somebody would score a point on her.
I think that I would score negative points against her.
I was literally going through it and thinking about it. And first of all, I also don't think 1 in 8 people understand how the scoring of tennis works, first of all. But two, I really think the only chance in hell you would ever have would be in the event that she double faulted. And I just don't think that would happen. But I really don't know why that's relevant.
Probably take it easy on you too and still beat all 8 people.
It's like when you're playing ping pong with your nephew and you're doing everything you can to give them a shot they can hit back and they still suck. Shout out to Hope and Raph who are on with us. Good to see you both, and happy anniversary, guys.
Happy anniversary.
I think it was either yesterday or the day before, but better late than never. And when this airs, it's way late, but yeah, it counts.
I'm just real upset that Raph is taken now.
He has been for a while, dude.
2 years apparently.
Yeah, that's true. We get this golf episode of Itchy and Scratchy with Itchy hitting Scratchy's head literally to the moon and getting the nice little pun. Now that's what I call a moonshot. This cuts out to Bart and Homer sitting on the Simpsons couch watching and laughing, and Homer, just thinking he is the smartest guy in the world, is suddenly just like repeating, now that's what I call a moonshot.
Dad, that line was in the cartoon.
I'm pretty sure it wasn't. They then get interrupted by Marge, who informs them that they have a $400 phone bill, which is pretty excessive in 2001 standards. Honestly,
no, it's not. I had a $400 phone bill in 2002, I think.
I got in like huge trouble in approximately 2002 for having about this much of a phone bill, because this was back when like texting was like 10 cents each or something like that. Yeah,
that's what got me.
And you didn't have unlimited minutes unless it was after 7 or 9 p.m. or whatever it was. And I remember I got
that either.
Lit up because I got a phone, and I was like 16, and 16-year-olds are obviously always making the best financial decisions. Oh, wait, maybe not. Regardless, they're not pleased with this situation. They have a $400 phone bill, which they find out they were charged for a call to Brazil, and immediately Homer assumes that this is his son Bart pranking Brazil, which he very much is like, no, sir, I didn't. And Homer immediately interrupts him with, choke on your lies, and he gives him the classic strangle. Which, since Richie's frozen, let's see, if I hold my hand, nope, I can't do it. There he goes. I was going to try to pretend to strangle you awake, but it didn't work. Apparently it did. But yes, Homer strangles Bart, saying, choke on your lies. But they decide to go down to the phone company, and that prompts the question, which phone company? There are hundreds of them, and they keep changing their names. Uh-oh, Richie's still frozen, isn't he? What a bummer. Yeah, this is where Richie's joke. I'm going to just hopefully give him time to return, and that will hopefully fix the problem, but I guess we'll find out. They have to figure out which phone company they're with, which they think they're with Comquack now, but that turned into Niagular, which became Vertical. And they don't know, basically. It's literally being changed as they're walking into the store. I really do like this joke, though, where they talk about how everything in this phone store is so high tech, and it does feel very reminiscent of walking into like Verizon or Sprint or AT&T or any of those where you walk in and they've got all their new merch. But in this case, it was robots acting as phone operators, old school phone operators. And essentially that was the high-end technology because they were using outdated technology, which is the joke. But I do love the dialogue here. It's dialing Murray. So I says Myrna. I says, that guy's a bum. So it's like two gossiping phone operator women talking in old speak as robots. Richie, are you back with us,
I disagree with everything Miles just said.
Yeah, I really can't review an episode. I can't go through a script without somebody, so I did just wildly make things up. Dude, I tried to convince people there were robots in this episode. Nobody's buying it.
Yeah, exactly. That's never happened in the Simpsons episode where they didn't act up and go after Homer. So, that's clearly a lie.
Yeah, they should be jabbing those cables that they plug into the board into like Homer and the kids. That would be the real robot uprising in this episode. We get a real outdated joke in this episode because Homer is very impressed when he sees that there is the movie phone guy, and he happens to be on a date, it shows.
Thank you for dating Mr. Movie Phone. Our evening will be rated R for brief nudity.
This was a legitimate sensation at this time because this was, again, 2000 and what did I say, 1 or 2? Now I can't even remember.
You said 2001, but the episode aired in 2002.
It did 2002, yeah, you're right. So this is early 2002. Internet is around, but it's definitely not as prominent as it is. And I mean, I think you can check movie times online at this point, but it's not going to be as simple as a Google search. You'd have to go through the website. So a lot of times, especially if you were driving or doing something where you didn't really have access to the internet, because that wasn't on our phones at the time, you would literally call this movie phone number and it would give you information on what movies are playing at what times, at what theaters. And again, this was in an era where you wouldn't go and you would not buy your tickets online and pre-select your seats. You would just go to the movie theater, buy your seats, and then go pick seats inside the theater, which had some pros and cons to it, but during big movie weekends, you would literally have to get there 30 minutes early if you wanted to get good seats.
Yeah, I don't know why. Maybe I'm just because I'm becoming old and crotchety, but I still miss doing it that way. But I'm early to most things, so I could go get my tickets and pretty much get decent seats for the most part, except for the really, really big stuff.
There's definitely a part of me that agrees with you, and the biggest thing that grinds my gears personally is the fact that you more or less have to buy your tickets via an app at this point. You can technically go to the theater and just use it on their screen and whatnot, but ultimately, they've put you in a situation where you're almost required to use the app to buy tickets, and they charge you a fucking convenience fee. They're charging a convenience fee so that I download your app and buy it through that. That's inconvenient. You should be giving me an inconvenience discount, if anything. I'm over that, hardcore.
There you go, crotchety Miles.
Join the club. I will get old and crotchety. Don't you worry. I'll yell at some clouds on this podcast today. I'll do it. Oh man. We're getting basically more little gags going on in the back of this phone store with people being offered to change up their long distance services. I actually really like this because there's a telemarketer on the phone and he's like, hey, I've got this great offer for you. And then he's like, are you there? They hung up on me. That hurts.
Telemarketers have souls too.
Apparently. Which is why they've all been replaced with those robots we saw in the earlier scene.
Exactly. We can't deal with souls in this business.
We get to the scene where they meet their customer service rep, Lindsay Nagel.
We've met you many times, Miss Nagel. Why do you keep changing jobs?
I'm a sexual predator.
Oh.
I can't wait till somebody just clips that. That's going to be exciting.
Yeah. Now, how may I dispense with you today?
So Homer comes in that they've been charged for calls of Brazil that were not made, and they are not paying that bill.
Fine. I'll cut off your service.
Fine. I'll cut off your ponytail.
Homer.
Marge, it's called negotiating.
Oh.
We basically learned that Homer's not a great negotiator, if you didn't already realize, because they end up with their phone service cut off. It starts showing up in ways like Lisa needing to call her friend Janie, but can't get a dial tone.
We're not paying our bill, so the phone company shut off our service.
Why must you fight with every utility?
I have too much time on my hands.
I love that line so much. That might be my favorite joke, honestly. He's like, I told you, I have too much time on my hands. And I've been there. I've gotten in some weird feuds with some companies because I just had the availability.
Who else have the availability? Lenny. He's coming to rub it in Homer's face.
Oh, dude, yeah. They turns out they were cleaning out the cooling duct at the plant and found a box of old taco shells. They, of course, would have told Homer about it, but they tried, and the recording told them that the Simpsons were a bunch of deadbeats.
Everything in Springfield is either completely, random and a broad spectrum, or it's very, very specific when it can downplay somebody and their hard times.
I want to point out, Richie, another reason that this episode's motivation to go to Brazil is way better than the motivation they went to Canada is because Homer's pride has been insulted in this moment. The phone company has called them deadbeats. And do you think Homer Simpson, with as much time as he has on his hands, is going to sit around and let them defame the Simpsons' good name, the reputation that they've earned in this town?
Pride is a dangerous thing, Miles. I could say that Bart, too, also had pride in the fact that the lady he had no interest in was now dating Milhouse.
But Richie, you understand that Bart is a 10-year-old child and therefore does not have the same weight that, literally and figuratively, that Homer has.
Yes, but then also, is Homer's brain not that of a child with that crayon being stuck in there?
And is Bart not the child of Homer, which means that he would have both a, delayed mental growth and the fact that he's 10 is going to make him even dumber?
If I bring
We're not going to Canada for a 10-year-old, all right? This is why we can't adopt a kid,
Grandpa
Richie.
Grandpa Simpson says that the Simpsons gene doesn't take effect until later in life. Therefore, at best, they're at the same mental state, if not Bart being a little bit brighter.
This is why you and I cannot adopt a child, because you would try to let a 10-year-old run our lives, all right? That is the only thing stopping us from being gay dads right now.
Gads.
So they decide that they, of course, since they have awoken this sleeping giant, they're all worried because they're like, what are you going to do? Crazy scheme? Which he replies, give me tools and beer.
Yes! Free service, here we come.
Homer's first plan is not to go to Brazil. It's to climb up the pole in his backyard, the phone line, and he's just kind of tinkering. Let's try the red one. Okay, I'll try the green. Let's try the red one again. Apparently he likes it.
Or he just is forgetting what he just did.
If Marge is paying attention, she'll discover a new kink to explore.
Hook up that car battery to his nipples.
Oh, man. So, yeah, this doesn't work, as you might guess. We just end up with Homer shocking himself. It's very different than the time he got to steal cable.
Yeah.
Completely unsuccessful. Whenever
he does try doing both of the colors together, which has the same result.
And it ends up with him actually waking up from a blackout, wondering how he got there, because the family tells him, we found you smoldering in the bushes.
That's it. We're just going to have to pay for that call to Brazil.
What call to Brazil?
The one I didn't make, Marge didn't make, and Bart didn't make, and hence no one in the house made.
And this is where Lisa realizes, they've somehow stumbled upon the mystery despite being terrible detectives. Because
very terrible.
Very terrible. But they realize it was Lisa. You made that call, but you're the good one.
The look on Bart's face when they say that was really funny.
And even worse when they're like, yeah, the one we both like.
Yeah. Yeah, it was very, very funny to see Bart's reaction to that.
But it turns out that in true Lisa fashion, she got in trouble because she was trying to do the right thing. She was sponsoring an orphan boy in Brazil, which is completely fine because the parents weren't affected by it. But unfortunately, when the kid stopped responding to her letters, it made her worried. So she called the orphanage to try to get information about Ronaldo, the boy that she's been sponsoring.
Wait. Don't you know the boys from Brazil are they like little Hitlers? I saw it in a movie whose name I can't remember.
You know it must be true then, regardless if you can't tell the title. But yeah, when they tell him he's disappeared, their only response is, well, how can you talk for $400?
Well, then they started pressuring me for more donations. You can't hang up on a nun.
And I love Marge comes in here and immediately yes-ands this, because she's like, yeah, that's right. They have powers.
Which that'll come back later in the episode.
Sure will.
When I sent my first donation, the charity mailed me this video.
And I love, we get Lisa popping in a VHS tape into the Simpsons living room VCR, and on the edging it just says Little Write-Offs.
Yeah. What a company name.
Ronaldo is on this video thanking Lisa for her generosity and explaining that because of her kindness, he was able to buy these sturdy shoes that will last for 1,000 sambas.
Oh, and he starts dancing.
Yeah, they all think he's absolutely adorable, to the point that Marge is even getting baby fever. Like, homie, can we have another baby?
No way. I still haven't lost the weight I put on from the last one.
Ronaldo explains that with the money left over after his Samba shoes, the orphanage was able to buy a door, which is very good because now the monkeys cannot bite him anymore. And we see this wonderful image of all these monkeys like attacking this orphanage, but being bamboozled by the presence of a door.
Yeah, so he runs inside, shuts the door, and the monkeys are clawing at the door. But the door's got a little like spot for your eyes where you can slide the little door and you can see out there with your eyes. And you just see Ronaldo's eyes, and he's, as they're clawing at the door, he's like, I am like sugar to them.
This is right here, the first moment, or a big moment of something I will be talking about at the end of the episode from the commentary. Though I do want to point out we did miss something on IMDb. Right when they decide that they are in fact going, or no, it's actually just about to pop up. This is basically, this video makes the Simpsons finalize the decision that they're going to go to Brazil. I think Homer brings up that they've been to every continent except for Antarctica, which prompts Homer to say, the Simpsons are going to Antarctica.
That's right after they had said, the Simpsons are going to Brazil.
And then, but on Antarctica, he's like, next year. Mm-hmm. Now, that prophecy did not come true, and in fact, in a canonical episode, the Simpsons still have never been to Antarctica. However, in the season 17 episode, The Wettest Story Ever Told, which is one of the non-canon shorts episode, they actually do show Bart crashes into Antarctica briefly. So technically, they do go there in a non-canon episode.
So technically, they haven't. Or else Maggie would be the baby of aliens.
That's also true. Yeah, there's a lot. If we open up that door, we really do open up a lot of things that we're going to have a hard time explaining.
So literally the one time they didn't predict the future is the instance where they have the most control over making it come true. And that is how life goes, people.
True. Try to make a plan. God laughs. Unless you're laughing at the people that believe in him. But it's fine. That's fine. We're not going to go there today. I've already pissed off enough Christians for 1 week. The Simpsons are preparing to go to Brazil, and they are looking at some travel tips, such as only drink bottled water, don't get into an unlicensed taxi, and remember that they have winter during our summer.
Wait. So in August it's cold?
That's right.
And in February it's hot?
Mm-hmm.
So it's opposite land. Crooks chase cops. Cats have puppies.
No, Dad. It's just the weather.
So hot snow falls up?
Yes. I like the idea of, like, fireballs rising out and just, like, floating into the sky. It's like a Super Mario Brothers level.
Yeah.
You know what? This is one of those moments that we're going to see next that shows how truly intelligent Bart really is in his own special brand of way. Because he decides since they are going to Brazil, he should be able to, communicate for all of his various scams and whatnot, bamboozles. So he's excited that he's taken the time on the airplane to become fluent in Spanish.
Well done, Bart. But in Brazil, they speak Portuguese.
And we get Bart angrily ranting in Spanish. He gets super
angly.
He's at a fun angle while angry, and speaking complete Spanish, which honestly, really impressive. I don't know personally if Nancy Cartwright actually speaks Spanish or not, but the idea that she learned these lines in Spanish and then delivered them perfectly as Bart, I find is really impressive as a voice actor. Very similar to when voice actors will sing in the character's voice. I'm that's a whole different level of doing the voice is one thing, but then being able to adapt to the different things that you would need to do to sing, or in Spanish, roll your R's and just have the different accents and whatnot.
Spectacular!
I find that very, very impressive.
Thank you.
Marge does point out again that it's Portuguese, which is in fact correct. But it's okay because Bart is able to just bonk his head and knock it right out of there.
Yeah, but it's because Homer says, "Forget every word, boy. It's useless." And Marge is like, "But Homer," and he's like, "I said forget it."
And it's already all gone.
Yeah.
We get an announcement from the plane's captain. The local temperature in Rio de Janeiro is hot, 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 with 100% chance of passion.
Fernando, you make that joke every time.
It was the joke that made you fall in love with me.
But then your disdain for Bart leaving the country ruined the relationship.
The Simpsons land in Rio de Janeiro. We can tell because we can see the giant statue of Christ on Corcovado looking out on them.
Now, wait a minute.
All right.
I will give this episode props for one thing.
Just the one, huh?
They actually explain why Maggie is not with the Simpsons in this episode.
Okay.
And it just happens. So Maggie is actually with Patty and Selma, and we just get one quick shot of Patty and Selma on their couch watching TV and smoking, and they just yell into the other room, "Hey, Maggie, how are you doing back there?" And it cuts over to the kitchen table, and Maggie is changing her own diaper and giving them the thumbs up. And then it cuts back to Patty and Selma. We're like, oh, so helpless. But I will give this episode props because I feel like so much over the past, 15 episodes or so, the core Simpsons family minus Maggie has been off doing something. And we never get an explanation of where Maggie is at. And I feel like maybe they caught on to that and just gave us this quick little 10-second bit so it would explain where Maggie is.
I would say that's become to the point of being a pet peeve of yours at this point.
Because she, in the past, I feel like she's always with them.
Mm-hmm.
So, always in Marge's hands or Lisa's hands. So the fact that they're just the baby's at home taking care of herself, at least say something along those lines.
And now we know that she literally is. It must be really easy to have a magical baby. If you want to adopt that kid, we can do so if it's as long as they're magical.
Right. And never age, I guess.
You're right though. It is nice to see that they actually do take a second to explain that for a moment. But now, can we talk about The Simpsons being in Brazil, Richie, or is there anything else that I missed? And I'm sure there is.
I mean, I'm just going in the order of the scenes that were displayed on the episode, so I think we're good to go in Brazil now.
Totally fair. Again, we see the giant Christ on Corcovado, which is the very famous statue associated with Brazil. It's literally a Christ statue up on a really beautiful mountain. It's got a lovely viewpoint. If you don't recall it, probably the last time most Americans saw it was during the Olympics, a decade ago. I thought you were going to say
during the Call of Duty map.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, you're right.
Wow, it's like he's on the dashboard of the entire country.
They have that useful Brazil information, which points out that you can get anywhere in Brazil just by taking a conga line.
Way ahead of you, Marge.
And then you can see that Homer's already in it. Conga, conga, conga. Take me to the hotel. My hands are on a guy's ass. Boy, this dude must work out. That reminds me of the joke from Dumb and Dumber, where they're walking. I think it's at the very end of the movie or close to it. They're walking down a random street, and a very attractive couple walks by, and they kind of both turn around and go look at the ass on that. And then I think it's Lloyd replies like,
You think they're talking about the female.
Yeah, and he's like, yeah, he must work out.
And there you go. Miles quoted one of the most famous scenes that always played on the ads before you watch that movie.
Oh, did it really?
I can see it in my head. Oh my gosh, I heard that so many times.
Interesting. I always watched that on DVD. I don't remember watching it on TV.
Well, I'm just talking about like Saturday afternoons or whatever, whenever like it's promoting whatever movie it's playing the next week or whatever.
Sure, yeah.
That's whatever a lot.
Whatever. It's whatever.
Yeah.
Let's see. You know what? I'll go ahead and jump to IMDb real quick for a quick moment because they do talk about how this episode has a lot of inaccuracies about Brazil, which may have been intended. They're not sure, but this was one of the ones that Conga is not associated with Brazil at all. In fact, it was developed in the Caribbean. We also see here in a bit that Marge and Lisa are going to visit a samba school where they talk about inventing the lambada and the macarena, which are actually of Spanish origin, not of Brazilian origin. There is
Marge didn't talk to them.
As of February 1st, 2022, there is no such dance called the penetrada, which I don't know. Maybe if you watch the right movies, there is one. And let's see, later on as well, you know, obviously, spoiler alert for this episode review show about a 20-year-old TV episode. When Homer does, in fact, get kidnapped here in a little bit, when they take him from Rio to the Amazon, they take him by boat, but those two locations are over 2,000 miles away from each other, so that would be damn near impossible, especially with no river connecting them.
But you don't know what kind of boat they were using.
A flying boat? Is that where you're going with this? Fair. You know, I can't argue with that. You're not wrong.
It could have been a teleporting boat.
This one's getting way ahead of it, but just so I can check it off my list and I'll have to worry about it later. At the very end of the episode, Bart is also going to point out that, you know, why is it so beautiful and colorful, blah, blah, blah. And he says it's Carnival. But Carnival actually happens during February, and this episode aired at the end of March, which again, that one's a stretch on if it's a mistake or not, but why not list it?
Okay. I think we can let that one slide.
I think we can let all of them slide, personally, but it's still worth pointing out.
So we're inside the hotel now when the Simpsons arrive there, and they're noticing that boy, they sure love soccer here.
You see the like person checking in front of them and the hotel receptionist. They're like literally like kicking the keys to the room as if they were juggling a soccer ball back and forth with each other.
Yeah. The guy that, oh my gosh, what are the guys called? The bag boy?
Busboy? No, that's that's not right. That's
the guy that carries your luggage up to your room.
Yeah, what is that person called? Oh my god. Valet.
It doesn't matter. He scores a goal.
He does.
Goal.
Bellhop. Raph got it. Yeah, Bellhop. Thanks, Raph.
And then he starts hooting and hollering and taking off his shirt and sliding like soccer players do. Like footballers do. I'm Brazilian. Then Homer takes his shirt off and tries to score a goal, but completely throws his luggage on the ground and it spills everywhere.
I like, too, that when we're up in the hotel room, Bart immediately gets in trouble for watching something raunchy on the television, but it turns out that he's actually watching a kid's show. It just so happened that this kid's show features a woman who wears tassels and likes to use them to direct traffic, so to speak.
I mean, it's got Bart's attention.
It sure does. And honestly, Marge gets a great joke here, because as she's watching, she's kind of like, at least Bert and Ernie left room for your imagination.
Yeah, there's definitely people in costumes that are basically rubbing up on each other. So, you know, very sexualized. So
this is actually, the kid show is probably over-sexualized for the point of this cartoon, but that is actually based on a real-life TV show for kids, and the hostess, the woman with the pasties on, is actually a parody of a woman named Zuxa, which I don't know if I'm saying correctly, but it's spelled Xuxa. And she hosts a very popular children's show that is essentially in the style that is shown on this episode of The Simpsons. Again, Americans have like a really like prudish and kind of like corrupted view of nudity. Like we're the only country where nudity is more, or well, not the
For
only country.
shame.
Yeah, we're one of the countries where nudity is far more considered shameful than like violence. Like you can get away with showing a lot more violence on TV and movies than you can nudity. And we also are a country that has a weird connection with nudity and sexuality versus other countries where being naked doesn't necessarily have sexual implications at all. Like being naked is just part of who you are. We've all got naked bodies and whatnot. Unless you choose to use them in a sexual manner. But here, it's just like, oh, I saw some side boob, gonna pop a boner now, I guess. I don't know.
Because it's not out in the open so much. Maybe it was out in the open a little more. Not the boner, the other stuff.
I do wonder about boner etiquette in a situation where you're in a country where there's a lot of nudity. Because, I mean, I imagine, like, teenage boys are still going to respond in the same way, regardless of how forbidden it is. But that's for a whole other discussion.
It's basically, it's not okay to do it in front of my face, but behind closed doors, I'm going to have all these secret sexual deviant acts that I do as an American, right? Like,
so are you saying that masturbation should be like sneezing and like you should just do it and then somebody should be like, bless you or whatever?
No, I'm saying all these people that are prudes about it are usually the ones that have the darkest secrets behind closed doors.
Yeah, I'm with you. But again, this entire joke comes from our culture's backwards beliefs more so than the in-your-face sexuality of a kid's show. That's not really how it is.
We also missed seeing when Homer spilled all the luggage right before they started watching the TV show. We saw that Homer brought a How to Loot Brazil book.
Oh yeah, that's true. You know, you got to be prepared. I also, on the plane, Lisa was reading a book, Who Wants to Be a Brazilianaire, which is
also to go on top of Miles. Homer was reading a magazine way back in the first scene called Blue Pants Weekly.
Hey, everyone in The Simpsons is a bibliophile in this episode.
Yeah.
Bart and Homer both get excited because of the hats the room came with. Bart specifically is excited for the fruit hat. Homer more so is excited for the mini bar hat.
I'm Chiquita Banana, and I'm here to say I will eat the Toblerone, and I will not pay.
But Lisa points out that while you're singing and dancing somewhere out there, Ronaldo is waiting to be found. And then immediately...
There he is!
Oh, wait. You said he had brown hair, right?
Homer's looking from the window in their hotel just out into the wide open street.
Every random Brazilian, yeah.
Yeah.
We get a scene where the Simpsons family is walking through a very brightly covered but obviously downtrodden neighborhood. Marge is impressed, though. She's like, wow, what a charming neighborhood.
Mom, these are slums. The government just painted them bright colors so the tourists wouldn't be offended.
Works for me.
Yeah, check out the rats.
And even the rats are like brightly colored and painted like yellow, red, and blue.
Ooh, they look like Skittles.
But they pull up on the address they were looking for, 123 Papaya Street, which is Ronaldo's orphanage.
Similar to 123 Fake Street.
They ask a group of nuns and kids, they tell them they're looking for a little boy named Ronaldo.
Oh, he went out months ago, and we haven't heard from him since. Every day we light a candle for him.
Have you tried looking for him?
That's plan B.
Immediately, Lisa is already kind of just disappointed or disgruntled about the whole situation because she's pretty much convinced they're never going to be able to find Ronaldo.
Now, Lisa, it's not as bleak as that. And then Homer turns to the nun. Can you fly me over town to look for him?
And he actually jumps on her back, like as if he expects her to fly like Superman. But she sadly explains, we nuns cannot fly.
Oh, too much junk in the trunk, eh?
Yes.
So they do have powers.
We cut to the only part of Brazil that I am personally familiar with, and that is a Brazilian steakhouse. If you've been to the Americanized versions, the most popular chain in Texas, at least, is Texas de Brazil. There are many others of the same style, and it's pretty dope because literally people bring you meat on a sword, which would cheer up anybody unless you happen to be a vegetarian like Lisa. And even as Bart's like goading her, like, come on, it'll cheer you up. And when she's like, I'm a vegetarian, but you're on vacation.
not wearing my wedding ring.
Homer!
Okay.
They have a map that was marked with all the places Ronaldo liked to go, so if they split up, they can search them all.
We'll do our best. Now let's get going.
Check, please.
And Homer pokes the person asking for the check with the
sword.
In the butt. Yeah. Yee!
Does that include tip?
Yee! It's the yes guy.
It's it is the yes guy. Instead of the big yes, it's the C, which, that's another thing they did talk about on the commentary a little bit. They actually talked about it a lot, to the point where I don't have a lot of information to share as much as they talked about it because they were really into the conversation. But basically, this guy is a caricature, if you will, of a very famous comedic actor, Frank Nelson, who was born all the way back in 1911, May 6, 1911, to be specific, and passed away in 1986. He was a comedic actor best known for playing Put Upon Foils on radio and TV. And the Simpsons writers, basically, this is one of those they don't really know exactly how it started, but at one point they put him in the episodes and then it just became a thing. And it's to the point where basically only like Al Jean actually knows who this person is. And often they just have to kind of like explain to the younger Simpsons animators and writers like why this joke matters. And like people, basically anybody who would have cared about this joke is already dead, but we're keeping it alive as their thing.
Keep it going. Okay.
Kind of interesting.
Yeah. You know what is not interesting, Miles? Seeing Homer walking around with a dress code on a beach. That's not interesting at all. It
is only because, again, from the commentary, I told you I didn't have a lot, but these are some of the facts. Every time this happens, they get so excited to talk about it because it's like they're like yearning for a day's pass that they just don't have anymore. But anytime they talk about any nudity on this show, especially with Homer, they always talk about how like we couldn't do that in today's episodes because they won't let us get away with it. And essentially the amount of like suction Homer's ass had on that Speedo would not fly by today's standards. But back in season 13, you were allowed to have that much man ass.
Yeah. They have to wear Speedos on the beach, but the back end of Homer's keeps getting sucked up through
just
his butt
more
crack.
And more. But Homer's like, dude, like Homer's self-confidence in this episode is through the roof because he's like ready to strut. And he's literally like singing like, I'm in Rio and I'm walking on the beach. I'm in my Speedo. But like literally as like women, as he's passing by women, they are like getting more and more disgusted and like blocking it in various ways. Like the first woman is just like, oh my God. The second woman literally destroys her own sandcastle to rub the sand in her eyes. And finally the third woman, he passes is so disgusted that she puts a live squid on her face to block out the view.
Yeah. I mean, he's got confidence there, but right before that, when they kept disappearing in his butt crack, he was a little concerned because he's like, oh, I hope they're going somewhere good.
It just straight up disappears from our view. We don't know what happens once it gets past a certain point of that crevice. It's like the Mariana Trench. We've studied it. We just don't really know a lot about it.
Ooh. I was throwing out some knowledge at you.
Hey, look at that. We cut back to Lisa and Marge, who are at the Samba school that we already talked about a little bit earlier. They're very snooty and explain that this is not a lost and found. This is where he invented the lambada and macarena, which is not true. But they are now developing, and apparently 20 years later, still in development, the penetrata, which makes sex look like church.
I don't think my daughter should hear this.
You cannot protect her forever, you stupid lady.
And then we cut to Homer and Bart going through a little street market here. And Homer asks for a drink with all your sweetest Brazilian fruits mixed together.
This scene kind of gave me the hottest pepper, the insanity pepper vibes, but like in the opposite effect, because essentially Homer, like, he mixes all the sweetest juices, and then whenever he drinks it, he's like overwhelmed with sweetness and starts like gagging and panting slightly before finally sighing in relief.
After he licks the ground, he starts feeling better.
Yeah. They're still searching, but there's got to be 1 million kids in Brazil, they say, so they don't feel like they're ever going to find Ronaldo.
Ronaldo?
Wait, you know him?
No. I was just distracting you while my children robbed you.
See, like a group of 8 kids taking Homer and wallets. No, I'm sorry, Homer and Bart's not only taking their wallets, but literally ripping their back pant pockets out. We
have Marge and Lisa looking at gifts for Maggie at a different little local shop.
Oh yeah, let's look at the stuffed Coda Mundi. I bet Maggie would like that one. They say that they're going to get her a bracelet, but the bracelet turns out to be an actual snake, and they go running away from that jewelry store.
All right.
Everything here is something.
Hey Bart, how many more places do we have to search?
Just one, and it's across town.
Taxi!
And I love this because earlier in the episode, one of the pieces of advice was to never get into an unauthorized cab. And literally on the side of this taxi, it says unauthorized taxi. So as soon as they get in, they're like, my American friend, I'm afraid that this is a kidnapping.
So that means I don't have to pay the fare.
Yeah, I suppose. I am afraid you don't appreciate the seriousness of the situation.
Fine, take me. But let the boy go.
I'm afraid he's already gone.
And
Bart's
not hightailing it. You can see him in the background, and he's nonchalantly just walking away. That part is what made me laugh.
Yeah, he's very just this isn't my scene. I'm out.
Yeah, it's almost like he's whistling as he walks. Almost, he's got that kind of swagger about him.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, good advice on being kidnapped if you're ever in a situation where you might be. One, try to humanize yourself as much as possible with your captor, and two, just make it inconvenient. Any inconvenience will often, make a crime not happen, because typically, criminals are looking for, the path of least resistance, and that's true with most, petty crimes, anything to do with, robbing or theft of any sorts, and to some extent kidnapping as well. So there you go. Listening to the Simpsons podcast might save your life one day.
Were you reading the Loot Brazil book here?
Yeah, I have my copy always beside me, dude. Just in case we need to go adopt a child in Brazil.
I mean, you would adopt the child first, then we'd have to go save them.
That's where we get a magical child, I assume.
I'm not going unless we're doing it in the name of love to go find somebody that goes to Brazil.
Go to Brazil in the name of love. I don't know.
Save your singing for the Evil Dead.
Thank you. I really should. Way easier to sing as a zombie. Did you know that you don't have to sing that well if your character isn't supposed to have vocal cords? Fun fact.
Wow.
Yeah, no, that's not even true.
Looks like you were made for that role.
Yes, that is true.
Because you're brain dead.
I love it.
Oh.
We are going now with Homer in this kidnapped vehicle in the taxi. They're basically telling him to shut up and put this and take that stupid bag off your head, because he has a bag on his head for some reason, which he refuses to because it smells like cinnamon.
Behold the Amazon. But quick, because we're burning it down.
Listen, I really need a rest stop.
Again?
I have the bladder the size of a Brazil nut.
We just call them nuts here.
But Homer, whenever he gets his opportunity to flee, he does. But he flees he's like, suckers. But then he flees into the jungle and then is attacked by blood-sucking bat. So we get the same line repeated back, only instead of him laughing and snickering, it's in total fear. Suckers! I guess planning a vacation around a missing kid is not the way to have fun.
Hey, it's time for Brazil's favorite kids show, Teleboobies.
Fun fact, also Mr. Most Days Off's favorite kid show. Again, going back, this is the same joke as earlier. They just keep doing it, and it's still funny. We get an example from our Zuzu character of the difference between clockwise and counterclockwise.
You have to be watching the actual stream to see Miles.
Oh yeah, I was doing pretend nipple tassels if baby tassels if nobody.
That wasn't just natural silence.
So Bart turns off the TV and Marge is asking, "Where's your father?"
Kidnapped.
Oh my God! What are we supposed to do?
And Lisa's like, I don't know, and Bart just goes, "Wait
for the call." Like he's been through multiple hostage situations in the past.
Yeah. And he turns the TV back on, and you can't see the TV. All you hear is "on top of, beneath, on top of, beneath."
You can use your imagination.
Just a horrified look on Marge and Lisa's face.
Marge is looking for help. She finds somebody. It's like, "So you want me to find your husband?"
Yes.
"And you also want me to find a little boy?"
"That's right."
"I don't think there is a boy or a husband. I think you have a thing for me."
And this guy comes in.
This is the police officer, by the way. This is the Brazilian Wiggum. Yeah, exactly.
"Oh, I've been shot."
"I am flattered, but I do not swing that way." This cop just thinks everybody with a problem has a crush on him, which is kind of fun.
That's also the kind of confidence you need there. He's been studying at the School of Homer.
I do have another itch.
That's Homer back with the hospital.
Oh, you're right. I thought that was still the cop just getting sexy, dude. I messed that up. He's like, "Yeah, I'm going
You're still thinking about this TV show that they're
watching." Yeah, you're right. Homer, who is tied up and a hostage, is explaining that he has another itch. But
he's on a table right now, like the little clamps around your arms and legs.
Yeah, he cannot scratch it himself. Or he could not possibly scratch it himself, but he is told to anyway, because his kidnapper is not going there again.
"I have sent the ransom note. If your family wants to see you alive again, they would be wise to pay."
I don't know. They've been seeing me alive for free for a long time.
So then it cuts to them on the phone with the kidnappers. "So, have you got the 50,000?
Well, with all our savings and the money Grandma wired us, we have $1,200.
I'm sorry, it's Homer on the phone with Marge, talking about did they get the money.
Yeah, that's right.
"That's very nice, honey. That'll buy you one of my legs, or something they call a mystery bag." "I'll get back to you."
So he explains to them he explains to the kidnappers that they only have 1,200.
1,200? Ugh, you've already eaten that much.
Come on, I didn't. And then you can see Homer's like kind of adding up all the things. Well, maybe.
Enough of your blarney. Get the money.
So he calls the only person in town he would possibly know who might actually have it. Ring, 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 ring.
Ahoy, hoy.
Mr. Burns, it's Homer Simpson. I've been kidnapped and I need $50,000.
Well, I'm on sheep embryos, so I am feeling charitable. How about I advance you the money and you work it off?
No deal! And he hangs up on Mr. Burns.
And some people might say, how would Homer know the phone number for Mr. Burns? And I will counter with, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, and even before the late 90s, people did this thing called memorization, where they knew certain important phone numbers by heart. And Homer calls in so frequently to work that he would have to know the phone number by heart.
I never memorized phone. I knew like a couple of phone numbers. I just wrote them down and kept the important ones I needed on me. But also, there just weren't that many people that I needed to call on a regular basis.
I know your phone number by heart.
I know you know my phone number by heart. I'm flattered. It'll be important when our adopted child has a problem and you need to get a hold of me.
Or when I get kidnapped
from a Brazilian payphone.
$50,000.
Yeah. Hey. No, that conversation is going to go like the one he's about to have with Mo. You're going to call me, and before you can ask, I'll be like, Homer, I need $50,000. You can't ask why.
No, I need 50 grand.
I asked you first.
Fine, I'll send you 50 grand.
Hey, thanks, Homer.
And then the phone is ringing in Ned's house. Hello, Flanders? I need 100 grand.
Yeah. I do like that he's already trying to cover for Mo, too. That's a good row right there, dude. Oh, well, I don't really have that much. But if you need it that bad, you'll be in my prayer. You'll be in my prayers.
Oh, go suck a Bible.
They both angrily murmur, but he's like, oh, this is all my fault.
This is Lisa talking about her idea to come to Brazil here. I came to find someone, but now I've just lost Dad. And
there's
what
a
is
bunch.
that noise?
There's like some fun music playing in the background.
That irritating, intoxicating music with a beat that sends your inhibitions packing.
And that's when Bart chimes in, "It's Carnival!" And people are cheering and dancing and laughing and parading and having a great time. Marge even points out, "Oh, your father would have loved this. The drunkenness, the ambiguous sexuality. I've got to get you out of here."
And you can see it starting to take over Marge.
It's taking over Miles too. Yeah, but you
cannot run from Carnival because even running is a kind of dance. Another guy comes up. I am on fire and I dance.
I'll just dance and worry at the same time. And she goes from like ee to like, and it's almost like if you're a Kevin Smith fan when they do the like lion face, lemon face, lion face, lemon face.
Okay, I can
clearly not a Kevin Smith fan.
I don't think that's a Kevin Smith thing. I think that's something that has just always existed since acting began.
You're probably right, but they made it very funny when Matt Damon and Ben Affleck did it, and Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
You wrinkled my brain where I had to think, is that something that Kevin Smith originated? I'm like, no, you guys used to do that in theater back in the day. And I'm like, but
are you sure that you didn't get it from a Kevin Smith movie?
Yeah, and that's where my head was at when you said, okay, you must not be a Kevin Smith fan. I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure because I was having to do that way before that movie came out.
As Marge is worry dancing, or worry enjoying, really, she noticed that there's parade floats going by, and she excitedly is like, "Hey, look! It's the stripper from that kid's show!"
She makes paying attention. Cool.
Raph's on my side. It's a Kevin Smith thing, though. I agree. Thanks, buddy.
I mean, I'm definitely going to trust the guy that probably watches those movies nonstop and is in the completely normal state of mind all the time. Yeah,
we are in the appropriate mindset to appreciate these things. You're right.
Appropriate. That's the word I was searching for. Appropriate.
But yeah, after noticing the stripper from that kid's show that Bart very much likes to pay attention to, we hear gasp, Lisa, it's me, Ronaldo.
Ronaldo?
And it turns out he's one of the like characters in this. He's dressed up as a flamingo specifically, and he explains to Lisa that it all started with the dancing shoes that you bought. And he basically explains that I tried to write, but I didn't know what state you lived in.
It's a bit of mystery, yeah. But if you look at the clues, you can figure it out.
Those trolling jerks behind the writers or in the writers' room. Because this time it was very much like a widespread mystery. It was not declared definitively like it is today, where Matt Groening has essentially stated that it's Oregon, which is impossible, by the way. If you look at everything the Simpsons have been to, it's a flexible universe for sure. But I do like that they're just kind of trolling the fans with this one.
Yeah.
So the parade is starting, so he has to go, but it says they can meet at the studio.
Where is it?
That way! And he just points at a random
It's not
direction.
him, it's the boob tassel lady.
Oh yeah, that's right. And Zuzu is like, it's that way, and she somehow makes her booby tassels point in a straight direction the way that they're going.
And Ronaldo holds up his end of the bargain. He's got $50K right there, and here's the ransom for your father.
Are you sure you can afford it?
I make as much as Malcolm in the Middle, and because I have no parents, my earnings remain unstolen.
To be fair, Frankie Muniz actually did really well for himself after Malcolm in the Middle. I think I've talked about that recently on this, but he invested in parking lots actually in LA with his money as a child. And I heard something really heartwarming. Again, I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself because I do like the story, so I've possibly told it on this podcast before. But I recently heard him on a podcast, and he talks about how to this day, Bryan Cranston still calls him about once every week or so just to check in and kind of just see how he's doing and catch up. And essentially they, like, through the course of being on that show together, Bryan Cranston and Frankie Muniz and the other siblings as well, they kind of developed an actual like father-son figure bond to some extent, and just the fact that that still exists decades after that show has gone on the air brings a little tear or two to my eye. I think that's really sweet.
It's just weird to hear you say decades in reference to that show.
Am I wrong, Richie? Am I wrong?
I didn't say you were. It's just weird.
Yeah, it hurts a little bit. I agree. I just had a birthday that puts me closer to 40 than I ever have been, which is true of every birthday, but this one hits different.
You're also getting closer to 50 every year.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even think about that yet. Wild.
Oh, we're as old as Homer now. Well,
yep, that's true.
So look like Homer a little bit too.
So they know that they're supposed to bring the ransom money to the top of Sugarloaf Mountain, and they talk about how I think it's Homer, is like, the tension is killing me. This
is Marge and the kids.
Oh, you're right. The tension is killing me.
And there's this, like, tense music playing in the background. Dun, 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 dun,
so they change it to, like, a funky music, and then Marge is like, well, that's not tense enough. It's making light of the situation.
And Bart changes it again, and it's like a tense song, but it's got like the Simpsons tone to it.
Yep, that's it. Just right. That's the one.
That's the one.
And they're basically
Dad.
They're in two opposing gondolas, right? And they're like slowly approaching each other. First of all, as we cut to who is it? I think it's Homer made a little scrapbook to remember this kidnapping, and he's still working on it. But as they're getting closer, he's like showing like some of the memories, like, hey, look, here's that cigarette here's that cigarette butt that you burned me with.
You slept like a baby that night.
Oh, I remember that, yeah.
And then as the gondolas pull up to each other, the family can see Homer laughing with the kidnappers.
They're like, Homer, why aren't you laughing?
He has the Stockholm Syndrome. He has come to identify with his captors.
They let me stay up all night.
Well, you won't be doing that at home.
So Homer's already got reason to consider just staying ransoms. Now
hand over the money and you'll get your Homer back.
And they open up, they toss the suitcase or the briefcase full of money over, and they open it up, and it's all pink and purple. And they're like, look at all that pink and purple. Our money sure is gay.
You are free to go.
So this is a reference to, first of all, obviously pink and purple are associated, or at least at the time, were with the homosexual movement or pride. This is a joke written in 2002, so it is a little bit dated, but it is also just a reference to the fact that the color of Brazilian reals are, in fact, very bright colors, and a lot of them, like pastel style. We got, I'm not sure if these are supposed to be commas or periods. It's a little confusing, but, because they're in the wrong place if they're commas, frankly, but they are in fact commas. Regardless, I'm just going to say this. The 1 or 100 is green. The 200 is blue and gray. The 5 or 500 is violet. Then we got carmine, not actually pink as portrayed. And then their yellow and orange for the 20, 50 is brown. And their largest bill, the 100 or 100,000, not quite clear, is turquoise in color.
I feel like it's Easter.
It's like an Easter basket, yeah. Either way. But yeah, I do still laugh at that dated joke. Sorry if that makes me insensitive.
The way they do it's funny.
It's pretty funny.
Yeah, so they've got the money. They tell Homer he's free to go, but they're in two different gondolas. So Homer gives his classic woohoo, and he looks at the little jump and goes, piece of cake.
And he just like goes for it. No fear whatsoever. Yeah, he jumps from gondola to gondola and barely makes it. He's like hanging off the side. And like the kidnappers are like, man, we should really make these transfers in a safer place.
It was Homer's idea.
You try to say no to that face.
Yeah, you say no to that face. And holds up the scrapbook with a picture of Homer in there.
And we get this touching moment of closure as Marge asks Homie if he's okay. He explains, yes, honey, I'm better than okay, because I've learned that no matter how bad I screw up, you'll always bail me out.
And they start kissing.
Aww.
Mom, Dad, we better do something about this.
Don't be sad.
And then, don't
Uh-oh, Richie froze up again on there. Yeah, we pan over. Or you're back. Go ahead.
Oh, I thought you were being silent.
No, you went frozen on my screen for what it's worth.
Just don't be sad, Miles, because it's Carnival.
And it's Bart delivering that "Don't be sad" line. And the thing that Lisa's worried about, Bart has been eaten by a snake. We can actually see Bart's outline halfway through the snake's body, and Bart's just like, you can't be sad in Carnival, and he starts dancing, probably a Caribbean or Spanish dance instead of a Brazilian one, as the theme of this episode suggests. But that is the Simpsons reset, is you cannot be sad. He's just holding him
hostage, Miles.
Yeah, he'll get it back. You cannot be sad because of Carnival.
There you go.
That brings us to the end of this episode. Richie, is there anything else that you or that book of yours want to say before I reveal that thing I've been teasing since the beginning of the podcast?
I have hit all the notes that I wish to hit in this one. This episode, I feel like, has some fun moments. I feel like for a travel episode, I don't know. It had some good stuff in there. For me, I definitely was along the same feel as the Japan episode, like you said earlier. But for whatever reason, it just doesn't feel as good as the Japan episode in my mind. I don't know if it's just like find this little boy that Lisa was quote unquote adopting. I just feel like you would in real life sit there and wait for the letter. But if we based everything the Simpsons do on real life, then none of the episodes would exist.
That's so very
eventually
true.
Eventually you just have to let it go and just have fun and enjoy the small parts. This is going to sound fucked up, but I definitely enjoy the hostage situation with Homer and his captors. Like, all the scenes with them are actually pretty funny though. So
I agree. I think that's a really good dynamic between those. Like, it's funny just to see Homer like adapting to like being a hostage, and he's still like eating his weight.
But he wins them over too.
Yeah, they become. Can you say no to that face, Richie? Can you say no to that face? I agree. That's great.
Exactly.
So I've been talking about it since last night to Richie, since the beginning of this podcast to the rest of you guys.
I'm no longer looking forward to this.
I've ruined it for two guys. Sometimes too much anticipation can be a bad thing. So from the commentary, this episode was being produced and running back-to-back weeks with the episode Weekend at Burnsies, which is an episode that we'll be reviewing next week. Will that air immediately, or will there be a best darn everything involved? I don't know. You'll have to tune in and see. But the next episode of The Simpsons we're reviewing is Weekend at Burnsies. And Weekend at Burnsies is an episode where Homer gets a medical marijuana card and then gets it taken away and basically lives a stoner lifestyle for a few hours, 23 minutes. Regardless, in 2002, we had a very different attitude towards marijuana than we currently do. I mean, in 2002, I don't even know if it was medicinally legal in California. I know for sure
that in South Park. Oh,
it didn't become recreational available in Colorado until 2012. So that's an entire decade later. And even today, living in Texas and other states, there's a couple of us left, that there are still states that have these just ass backwards beliefs and laws against marijuana. But regardless, the world we live in 2002, this was considered to be a pretty controversial issue at the time. And a lot of people were just straight up worried. Like they were worried that the censors were going to call on. They were worried that people are going to be offended. They were just completely prepared to have all this backlash for Weekend at Burnsies. They were not prepared to have backlash for this episode, but they absolutely did. First of all, Weekend at Burnsies received exactly 0 complaints. Nobody was upset about it at all. However, it turns out the entire country of Brazil was very upset with this episode for a couple of reasons. For one, it just so happened to come right after Brazil had spent a bunch of money to advertise traveling to Brazil. So they were very upset when they were portrayed to have things like the monkeys running through the streets and the people robbing and all of the various jabs they took. Yeah, the slums, the oversexed children's shows, all of it. They were not happy, to the point that they actually...
so the Brazilian are prudes too.
to the point that they actually threatened to sue the Simpsons, which immediately got Al Jean and the rest of the staff a little bit on edge, because that's a big deal to be sued by an entire country.
Yeah.
Fortunately for them, it turns out a country can't actually sue for defamation. So they turned out to be able to be just fine with it. But it was a big deal to the point that several of the Simpsons writers had actually visited Brazil after this episode had aired, and for a long time after. They didn't say that it has stopped technically, but people would be mad that they're like, we still don't like the way you portrayed us on TV and whatnot. By the way, Al Jean does point out that Brazil is the only country, they've made fun of many countries, Brazil is the only country that has ever gotten heat with them over it. The other countries have just laughed and enjoyed the poking of the fun. Versus Brazil is just hot, so to speak, about it.
I thought the Simpsons were beloved in South America too, in certain countries. I
mean, the Simpsons are beloved all over the world. So now this part is very anecdotal, and I cannot verify, obviously, but it's from Al Jean himself, who says that he has friends who went to Brazil and swear to him that they met a man that they were talking about this Simpsons episode with, and they verified that Brazilians, especially the Brazilian government, hates the Simpsons because of this episode. But he confessed to them, this man, that they were actually insanely accurate, and to prove his point, that man's occupation, what that man did for a living, was remove monkeys out of people's houses. Again, will we know if that is true? We cannot possibly, but I'm going to choose in this flexible reality that is 100% factual. And that is going to do it, my friend, for Blame It on Lisa. As always, we appreciate all of you guys who tuned in, specifically today for hanging out with us on Twitch. Thank you so much to Ducky, Hope, and Raph. It was great to see you guys. Always a pleasure. Thank you for supporting us as always. And thank you for everybody who's listening to the show, either live or as it becomes a aired podcast, in all the ways that it does that when it goes up on Podbean. We appreciate you so much, and just can't thank you enough.
Yeah, although Raph should get better taste in friends, unlike Miles. No, don't just side with Miles all the time. That's ridiculous. But if you do want to side with Miles... If you do want to side with Miles online, you can follow him all over social media. He's at Mr. Most Days Off. Make sure you like and subscribe to his Twitch channel. You can also follow myself, Richie, at @TheWiz_Kid23. And most importantly, you can follow our show. That's at Best Darn Diddly. That is DIDDLY. I'm going to have to change that soon, because at this point, I think it's more important that you follow Miles than Best Darn Diddly right now. He's blowing up.
Don't know if that's true, but follow both. Follow Richie too, even though he doesn't interact with you. He might one day.
I tweeted something, I think a week ago.
Yeah,
I think it was from Merkin.
You're totally socially mediating. You're doing it. Way to go, man. Yeah. Again, thank you guys, and Richie and I will be back again next week. The next episode of The Simpsons that we will be reviewing is going to be Weekend at Burnsies.
And you guys have to turn in to Best Darn Diddly. It's home of the stinkiest rags in America.
Until next time, be cromulent to each other.